Long ago, there was a king named Ahasuerus, ruler of the Medes and the Persians. He ruled 127 provinces from Ethiopia to India, the largest and strongest kingdom in the world. Now it happened once that King Ahasuerus made a tremendous feast for all the important people in the kingdom. It lasted for 180 days. Then he made a second feast for just Shushan, his capital. Everyone in the city was invited, even the Jews. For 7 days he showed off his riches and ate and drank with his guests. Mordecai, the leader of the Jews, warned his people not to go to the feast because Ahasuerus brought the gold and silver vessels from the holy temple in Jerusalem and used them for this celebration. But they were afraid to disobey the king, and to tell the truth, they were honored and pleased to have been invited. The drunken king began to brag that his wife, Queen Vashti, was the most beautiful woman in the kingdom. On the last day of the feast, he commanded her to come and dance before the crowd. But Vashti was the proud granddaughter of the cruel Nebuchadnezzar, and she refused to appear. "Am I the servant of the king?" she asked. In a fit of anger, the king had her killed. Now King Ahasuerus found himself very lonely, and he proclaimed to find a new queen, even more beautiful than Vashti. His men went to look for girls all over Persia. Hundreds upon hundreds of contestants arrived and paraded before the king. In Shushan, a Jewish orphan named Hadassah lived with her uncle Mordecai. When the king's men came to her house, Mordecai said, "Don't be afraid. Go with them. Do not tell them that you are a Jewess. Tell them your Persian name, Esther. God will watch over you." Esther was kind, gentle, and very beautiful. She did not want to go, but she obeyed her uncle because she respected him very much. As soon as the king saw her, he chose her as his new queen. Her meals were cooked with kosher foods, and all the while she kept her secret. No one knew she was a Jew. In those days, while Mordecai was sitting in the king's gate, he happened to hear two men plotting to kill the king. He warned Esther. She warned the king, and the two men were caught and killed. Although it was recorded in the royal book that Mordecai the Jew saved the king, the matter was soon forgotten. Soon after this event, Ahasuerus appointed Haman, the richest man in the kingdom, as his new prime minister. All the king's subjects were ordered to honor Haman and bow down to him. Everyone did except Mordecai. Haman wore a large medallion engraved with a picture of an idol on his chest. Mordecai explained, people might think he was bowing to the idols too, and a Jew is forbidden to worship or honor idols. Haman was very angry. He went straight to the king to complain. "There is one nation," he said, "scattered throughout your kingdom, which is different from all other nations. They don't eat our foods, drink our wine, or marry our daughters. They don't keep the king's laws, and they don't work. Every seventh day they rest, and they are always celebrating strange holidays. If you give me permission, I will destroy them for you. I will even pay for any expenses from my own money." Ahasuerus gave Haman his royal ring to seal the orders and decrees. Anxious to do a perfect job, Haman wanted to execute his plans on the right day, a lucky day blessed by his gods and the stars. So to choose that day, he cast a pur.
The decree. On the 13th day of the month of Adar, you are to destroy, kill, and slaughter all Jews. young and old, women and children, all in one day. Their money and property will then belong to me.
When Mordecai learned of the decree, he ripped his clothing and put ashes on his head as a sign of mourning. He sent a message to Esther. When the 3 days of prayers and fasting were over, Esther went to the king. "What is your request, my queen?" he asked. "Half of my kingdom is yours for the asking." Esther replied, "Let the king and Haman come to the feast that I have prepared for him." The king said to his servants, "Go and tell Haman quickly that Esther's wish may be granted." Haman was delighted. On his way out of the palace, he passed Mordecai at the gate. His delight turned to hate.
I am important enough to be invited to the queen's private banquets together with the king, and that Jew refuses to bow down to me? I should kill him!
Then Zeresh, his wicked wife, and all his friends said to him, "Let a gallows 75 feet high be built, and in the morning speak to the king, and let Mordecai be hung on it. Then go merrily with the king to the feast." This advice pleased Haman. That night the king was unable to sleep. He gave orders to bring him the books that told of great deeds, and they were read before the king. And in them was written how Mordecai had told about the 2 servants of the king who had tried to kill King Ahasuerus. Then the king said, "How has Mordecai the Jew been honored and rewarded for this?" The king's courtiers replied, "Nothing has been done for him." "He saved my life and received no reward?" stormed the king. Just then, someone knocked at the door. It was Haman, who came for permission to hang Mordecai the Jew. He was in such a hurry he couldn't even wait for the morning. The king demanded, "Who is in the court?" "Haman," thundered the king. "Tell me, what shall be done for a man the king wishes to honor?"
He must be referring to me, thought Haman gleefully. I know just the thing, he said. Let him wear the king's royal robes. Place the king's royal crown upon his head. Let him ride the king's royal horse. And let a servant walk before the horse and cry out, "Thus shall be done to the man whom the king wishes to honor."
"Wonderful idea," cried Ahasuerus. "I shall leave it to you. Find Mordecai the Jew, and do exactly as you described, down to the last detail." Haman did as he was commanded. Haman returned home, a bitter, broken man. But he had no time to brood. He had to be at the royal palace in time for the queen's banquet. At this banquet, the king asked, "What is your desire, Esther? Why have you invited us here? Speak, and it shall be done." Esther spoke. "Spare my life," she cried, "and the lives of my people. We have been sentenced to death." "Death? Your people? By whom?" asked the surprised king. "By an evil and wicked man, by your minister Haman." "What?" cried the king. "Take him away and hang him," he shouted. In the end, Haman was hung on the gallows he himself had built for Mordecai, and Mordecai became the king's new prime minister in place of Haman. According to Persian law, it was impossible to change a decree stamped with the royal seal. so the king could not cancel the decree against the Jews. But Mordecai was given the royal signet ring to issue whatever new decrees he could think of to help the Jews.
To whom it may concern. Date: 2nd Adar 2nd, 358 BCE. Jewish resistance. On the 13th of Adar, all the Jews in the kingdom would organize to defend themselves. The Persians were more than happy to listen to Haman and kill the Jews, but if the Jews were going to arm themselves and fight back under royal protection, well then, that was another story. The Great Seal of the Persian Empire.
On the 13th of Adar, Jews across the kingdom assembled and defended themselves. Thousands of their enemies were killed, including Haman's evil sons who were hung from a tree. Unlike the Persians, who planned to take money and property, the Jews took no loot at all. On the 14th of Adar, they gave thanks to God and celebrated. But in the walled capital city of Shushan, the Jews continued to fight an additional day. On the 15th of Adar, the Jews of Shushan celebrated their victory. Therefore, we celebrate.